promising.
And those negotiations between McConnell and Schumer are off to an inauspicious start as they're sort of lobbing rhetorical bombs at each other on the Senate floor over the last few days in anticipation of these new skirmishes, which I would imagine are very boring to most Americans, but they have to set the rules for how they're going to have this trial. You're right, you need 51 votes or 50+1 votes in the Senate to help establish the rules, but crucially, again, you need 67 out of 100 to convict the president. That's not going to happen. Everyone acknowledges that, so we're sort of having a fight over a foregone conclusion, which I think is a bit anticlimactic, certainly, despite the historical nature of it. And you have to think also on the other side of the aisle. You're absolutely right. You think about maybe Mitt Romney from Utah, Susan Collins from Maine. A few of them come to mind. Lisa Murkowski, sometimes from Alaska, are willing to side with Democrats on important votes from time to time. Romney has been relatively critical of this president on this issue in particular. However, in Chuck Schumer's Democratic caucus, there are some red state Democrats who do not seem like they're chomping at the bit to cross the president and his supporters on this. First and foremost, Joe Manchin of West Virginia. He looks like a no. Kyrsten Sinema, who just won in Arizona, she's been very bipartisan so far. She's been wavering. She's one to watch. And then there's also Doug Jones, a relatively newly elected Democrat from Alabama, of all places, sort of a fluke win for him. He's up for re-election next year. I guarantee you this, and he's not an unintelligent man. If he votes to impeach President Trump or remove President Trump from office in Alabama, he will be former Senator Doug Jones, if he's not already headed in that direction. So those are three names to keep in mind, in addition to the three on the other side, that could cross over and make things interesting. But ultimately, are they going to come within 20 votes of what they need to remove President Trump? Probably not, and they won't really be in the ballpark. So this is somewhat academic. We're sort of fast-forwarding. Sorry for the spoilers, everyone. We're fast-forwarding to the end of the movie, which is we've now gotten the impeachments settled, and up next is the acquittal.
Well, and knowing all of this, tonight, Doug Collins, who's the ranking member on key committees, the House Judiciary Committee, he had a fiery closing speech, essentially, for the Republicans, the final defense of the president tonight, and he talked about the fact that the president will still be the president when this is all over, and that there will be a lot of time and money that Congress has spent going down this path, and that's where you lose a lot of the American people, because many of them are frustrated, don't follow it like we do here in Washington and say, why are we doing this when we know what the outcome will be? And again, Guy, you and I have talked about how the polling on this has shown it's remained steady or moved away from impeaching the president as it's gone on. That's not what the Democrats would hope in putting on a case that they say they needed to gain bipartisan support so that the American people would be united behind them on doing this. The polling has not shown that. So now we head into a Senate trial that people will see as nothing but theater at this point, because we know what the outcome is going to be, barring some massive revelation of something that we don't already know that hasn't already been uncovered. So we'll wait to see, but in the meantime, there's going to be criticism of the Democrats for doing this and going down this path, although there are a number of members who stepped up to say, hey, this may even hurt me politically, but I believe this is the time, this is the principle, I'm defending the Constitution. No matter how the rest of the country reacts to this, I'm doing what I think is right and how the history books will judge me.
Our Fox News polling shows basically a public opinion unchanged over the last few months on this. A number of other respected pollsters find receding support for impeachment. We look at Gallup today, Quinnipiac, Monmouth, CNN's polling recently, and a few of them, opposition is now a majority. And in the Real Clear Politics average, opposition to impeachment now slightly noses out support. So it is right down the middle, with Democrats losing steam, frankly, on this. And when you look at public opinion, you have a very solid group of people who say absolutely the president must be impeached and removed for this conduct. You have the president's base and many Republicans who say this is a sham and a witch hunt and a coup and all of that, and this should all be shut down immediately. There's nothing to it. Then there are millions of Americans in the middle, and I'm sort of among them, who say, no, this is a legitimate area of inquiry and oversight. The president did not behave perfectly. There are some problems here, but is it worthy of using this extreme measure, this nuclear option almost in Washington, of impeaching and trying to remove a president from office, especially with an election looming? Is that the right thing to do? And a lot of that middle ground group are breaking towards no, let's not go for impeachment. And yet we see today, for a number of reasons, including the base and principle and a few other issues that I think would be cited. We see the Democrats in the House, at least, moving forward nonetheless.
Yeah, and as we look at that vote, we understand that Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, a Democrat out of Hawaii, voted present on both of these articles. She is running for the Democratic nomination in 2020. She's been out there on the campaign trail. She's put out a statement about this, and she says, "My vote today is a vote for much-needed reconciliation and hope that together we can heal our country. Let's work side by side, seeking common ground to usher in a bright future for the American people, our country, and our nation." So, Mike, she is somebody who had pushed for censure, something that would have been less than impeachment.
Right.
She didn't get much traction with that, and tonight she votes present instead of taking a side.
Yeah, it sounds like she's trying to promote reconciliation, political reconciliation in this country, which may be desperately needed after this impeachment process. She's saying she's making a stand for the political center in this country, so question whether that becomes Tulsi Gabbard, independent candidate for president, or whether she stays in the Democratic lane, but more of a centrist Democrat. So an interesting take on her part, not wanting to just go along with Speaker Nancy Pelosi and some of the more liberal voices who are running for president who are saying impeach, 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 but also not voting no to vote with the Republicans. And so she voted present. There you go.
Yeah, and she has taken a lot of heat from many in the Democratic Party who have labeled her sort of a traitor and accused her of mounting or getting ready to a third-party run. Let's check in now to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi after the second vote on the second article for impeachment.
Article 2 is adopted.
Yeah, and you heard there she says Article 2 is officially adopted, meaning both articles of impeachment against the president have been approved by the House. Took a majority vote. That has happened. You heard as she gavelled there was a yay of yelling. She tried to stop that because, again, they have been communicating this is a very somber moment. But people on both sides of this have been very passionate, very riled up. So we are going to watch as this unfolds. Now, the House will still have to formally vote to send these articles of impeachment over to the Senate. That will then take you to a Senate trial. We think will probably be in January. That will be a whole new ball game. In the meantime, enjoy your holidays. Analysis continues on Fox News Channel, on cable and satellite. More